That's much a little worse.
All right, so that was the first time this car has been started up in the last 3 months. If you were watching the exhaust carefully, there was a puff of black smoke when it was initially started, and then it starts running with white smoke. So these checks that we're doing here are before we started it. Yeah, we want to see all this stuff cold before we agitate anything. Yeah, so see, like it separates and clings to things when it sits, right? So that oil, I changed it myself for this guy in December, and it's only got a few hundred kilometers on it. So we're over here looking at the brake fluid, it looks like. So it looks clean, that's good. Get that thing right in there so that we can, I'm gonna look through the, beautiful. That's good to see. That's good. So that looks good and clean in there. Well, that's good to see. Then we're gonna go over here and look at the power steering fluid and the coolant, and they're gonna check out. So, as I was saying, it hadn't been started in 3 months, and that time it was only started and run for just a minute to go about 100 yards down the road to return it to its owner. See the belt? So you can see the texture on the belt. It's starting to get shiny. But who had left it kind of abandoned in my driveway. He didn't want to sell it to me back in December, but now he's willing to give me the price that it's worth, and I wonder what you might think this car is worth. Yeah, check this out. There we go, we started it, but most of the oil is circulating in the system. So check it out, watch. Okay, it's spraying. Yeah, sprayed me. So here we get it back to my house, get it up on the ramps. We go over underneath just to have a look at the rust. You can look and see if you know what you're looking at and leave a comment or tell me about it. So the blow-by that we just saw with this car, is that going to be caused by turbo? Because this 2007 Mazdaspeed 3 is notorious for the turbo failing. And as we're going to see in a minute or two, there's some blackening and it looks like a bit of a leak from the turbo. So, but would that give us that blow-by? I've never seen blow-by like fire oil out of the fill the fill cap either, but I haven't seen enough cars to really, attribute any meaning to that. So that's a question for people out there: is that blow-by going to be caused by 2 problems happening at once, or can that solely be the turbo?
What would be another problem that causes blow-by?
Well, piston rings.
Yes.
So you have a compression leak. And I suppose if it's bad enough, then it blows harder and it can blow oil, so it can be just caused by piston rings. But I'm wondering if we do a compression test and it, is it possible to find that the compression's all good and that it's all just turbo? I don't know. We're going to look at the exhaust all the way back, and so this is pretty typical rust for a car of this age in Canada, especially one that hasn't gotten any rust proofing.
It's still structurally sound though, it's just flaking a little bit.
Yeah, that's a lot of the components. There's some frame right there, so we see that there's some rust in the frame, especially around that join. We're going to give some treatment to that. Some people claim that you cannot treat rust, but it is possible with some care to first stop the corrosion, and then you can rebuild. But anyways, there's no need to rebuild there if we stop that corrosion, if we treat that rust. So that's different. The rust looks a lot uglier on certain parts, and I don't know why that is. Different metals, I guess, corrode differently. I also know that when you have 2 different metals that contact each other, they might corrode at certain rates separate from each other, but one of them, when they are touching, will corrode worse than the other, and the other one will corrode less fast. than it otherwise would. It's almost like the one takes the corrosion hit. So I wonder if that's going on with some of these components that we see. Oh, I'm not showing it very well there, but the Serpentine Belt looks like a little too shiny. Someone with more knowledge than me can maybe help me out with that. So this is our first look at this car, which hasn't been driven in 4.5 months, which hasn't been properly taken care of by the current owner, who's just a kid. And so everything on this car works as it should. There's a TCS light on. And I guess I'll be posting about that and doing some videos about that too. But this is our first look at the car now that it's come out of hiding from the winter. There's the bottom of the turbo. We can see it's blackened. There we go.
So look at that. So what's that? Reddit? People have read it. What the fuck is that there?
And I say that because last night I didn't know that I didn't know how to identify the turbo from below. It wasn't until I did a bunch of research that I was able to figure out what I had seen.